Welcome to the Creative Commons RX podcast. Before diving into this episode, I want to ensure we're all on the same page. This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.
Have you ever wondered what's really going on inside the brain when someone goes through withdrawal? It's got nothing to do with willpower. It's actually a dramatic, high-stakes biological story. A story about a brain thrown into total chaos, desperately trying to find its balance again. So let's break down exactly what that battle looks like. So what is that story? I mean, what is the minute-by-minute, neuron-by-neuron battle that unfolds when a substance the body depends on is suddenly gone? That's the core question we're going to unpack right here in this explainer.
You know, to really understand what goes wrong, we first have to appreciate what goes right. Every single second of your life, your brain is performing this incredible balancing act just to keep everything running smoothly.
Now, when that balance gets thrown way, way off, we get what's called a withdrawal syndrome. And the key phrase here is physiologically adapted. This isn't just a craving in your head. Your brain has physically rewired itself to expect that substance to be there. It's changed its own chemistry. And when you take that substance away, all that new wiring suddenly becomes a massive problem. Okay, the best way to think about this is to picture your central nervous system like a seesaw. On one side, you've got your inhibitory signals. These are the brakes. A chemical called GABA is the main one. It calms everything down. On the other side, you've got your excitatory signals, the gas pedal. A key one there is glutamate, and it ramps everything up. Normal everyday function is all about keeping this seesaw perfectly balanced.
But what happens when a substance comes along that day after day is constantly pushing down on one side of that seesaw? Well, the brain, being the amazing adapter that it is, doesn't just give up. It starts to fight back.
So if a substance like alcohol is always helping out the brakes, the brain compensates. To fight back and level the seesaw, it starts to weaken its own natural brake system. And at the same time, it makes the gas pedal system way more sensitive. It physically changes itself to create a brand new equilibrium, a new normal, but a very, very fragile one. And hey, it's really important to be clear about our words here. This physical adaptation we're talking about is what leads to withdrawal. It's related to, but it's different from tolerance, which is when you need more to get the same effect, and addiction, which is the compulsive behavior of seeking out the drug. For this, we are focused squarely on the purely physiological storm of withdrawal. All right, so let's use the powerful example of alcohol to see just how dangerous this rebalancing act can get. This is where the story gets really dramatic. So as we said, alcohol is a depressant. It boosts GABA, the brain's main brake pedal. With chronic use, the brain adapts by basically pulling back on its own GABA system, making itself less sensitive to the brakes. And at the same time, it cranks up the excitatory glutamate system, making the gas pedal extra powerful. It's like it's taking its own foot off the brake and putting a brick on the gas just to stay level. And this is the critical moment. When the alcohol is suddenly taken away, that artificial brake is just gone. But the brain's adaptations, fewer of its own brakes, and that brick on the gas pedal are still there. The seesaw doesn't just tip, it violently slams down on the excitatory side. The result of this system going into total overdrive is a storm of severe physical symptoms. You can get tremors and agitation, dangerously high blood pressure, and in the absolute worst cases, life-threatening seizures and delirium tremens. And it all stems from this one profound imbalance between inhibition and excitation. So, wow, you're faced with a brain that's basically lost its brakes and is speeding completely out of control. How do you safely calm that storm and guide it back to safety? This is the crucial question for medical professionals, right? You can't just wait it out. The system is far too unstable. You absolutely have to intervene and help the brain get back in control. And the logic is actually pretty simple and elegant. If the problem is a catastrophic loss of the braking system, the solution is to provide a temporary, controllable set of brakes. You need something that can step in and do that calming down job while the brain slowly and carefully heals itself. And this is exactly why benzodiazepines are the cornerstone of treatment. They work on the very same GABA receptors as alcohol, so they can effectively stand in for it. That's what cross-tolerant means. They restore that braking action, and crucially, they are fantastic at preventing seizures, which is one of the biggest dangers. They allow doctors to gently guide that seesaw back toward level. Now, we focus on alcohol because it's such a clear and powerful example, but the same fundamental story of adaptation and rebalancing applies to a whole range of other substances. So whether we're talking about opioids or barbiturates or even caffeine, the specifics change, but the core story stays the same. Different substances are like different keys fitting into different locks, or receptors, in the brain. But in every case, chronic use forces the brain to adapt, and withdrawal is the painful and often perilous journey back to its original balance. At the end of the day, this entire complex process really boils down to a single powerful idea. Captured perfectly in the source material, withdrawal is a significant reduction in tonic inhibitory neurotransmission, resulting in a state of excitation within the central nervous system. In other words, you lose your brakes, and the brain gets stuck in overdrive. This isn't just a metaphor. It is the core biological reality of what's happening. Which leaves us with a final important thought. The brain's ability to adapt is, well, it's nothing short of miraculous. It lets us function under incredible stress. But this whole process shows that forcing it into these extreme cycles of adaptation and readaptation comes at a tremendous biological cost. It pushes the very systems that keep us stable to their absolute breaking point.
This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.